What if every thought you had was shaping your ranch, your family, and your future? Would you stop and would you change how you think? My name is Jared Sorensen. Welcome to the Profitable Steward podcast. It's a privilege to be your host. Welcome to 2026. And as we start off this new year, I wanted to share a special podcast with you in hopes that it will bless your life as much as these principles have blessed mine. About 15 years ago, I got my first iPod, and I remember finding Apple books and downloading audiobooks. Prior to that, I used to bounce around with my pickup with CDs, and prior to that, even cassette tapes. I'm a lifelong learner, and I love to learn, and I've always invested in my education. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. I've got this device now that'll fit in my pocket, and I can utilize it to be able to download hours of audiobooks. And I found some of the free classics that are in the public domain. One of those books was As a Man Thinketh. And I downloaded that book. And one day when we were out moving cattle, I grabbed my iPod and stuck it in my pocket. And when we got the cattle gathered and we're trailing them from one area of our allotment to another, I was kind of up on lead and guiding the cattle. And I had my two boys, the oldest boys, I think they were about 8 and 10 years old, and a couple of their friends that were bringing up the drag. And I popped those pods in my ear and started listening to this book, As a Man Thinketh. And I remember thinking, man, this is good. This is a great book. And it was awesome. Something clicked in my mind. It was more than just an emotional reaction, more than something motivational. It was something really at the foundation level. And I want to share some of these principles from that book with you today. And this is actually part one of a part two series. So in part two, I'm going to read the book. And it's not the easiest book to read. It was written in the early 1900s. James Allen is the author. And there's a lot of very long sentences. It was really hard to get the punctuation right. And so I hope you bear with me. And if my voice is absolutely annoying, I'm not going to be offended if you go and you get it somewhere else, whether that's Audible or it is on LibriVox where I found it. And he's a lot drier than I am, and I listen to him. So hopefully, one way or the other, listen to that book in its entirety. And it only takes about a little less than an hour to do that. So 15 years ago, I had that experience, and that book still influences my life today. It influences how I lead, how I steward the land, how I lead in my family, and how I live. So here's some of the core principles that James Allen teaches that align perfectly with the truth that we already know to be true. Your life is not shaped primarily by the circumstances. It's shaped by thoughts. And that matters because most of us don't manage our thoughts at all. So there's three key insights or three key principles that I'm going to share that while they don't directly tie into the book in that he didn't teach these principles, these are my takeaways. I think they're important to help you to get the most out of the book. So here we go. Principle number one is we have a pattern of thought, and that thought is shaped by those individual thoughts that we have going through our mind every day. Statistics say that we have some 60,000 individual thoughts going through our mind each and every day. And the majority of those are negative. 2/3 of those thoughts, or 40,000 individual thoughts, are negative. Most of these go completely unchecked. We just assume that that's how everybody is. And then we wonder, why do I feel discouraged? Why does progress seem to be lagging? Why are things heavy? Where does the motivation come from? Why are my relationships strained? And why does business feel harder than it should? And so we, especially in agriculture, and I think especially men, we tend to do what we do best. That's to put our head down and we go to work. But we don't pause and think, well, maybe if I'm working with a faulty paradigm, I'm just going to continue to get more of the results that have gotten me into this situation. So we have to think differently. And let me just interject a couple of ideas here that I've learned from mentors, and they're things that I utilize on a daily basis at some level. So one of them is a journal. So I had to look here. It's usually not very far from me. This is a journal that I use. And what it helps me to do is capture the positive thoughts. Those ideas that come to me, when I write them down and I make a commitment that I will act on them, that is showing that I show that they're important. They are more likely to receive increased inspiration when I do that. The other thing that is rarely talked about, you can use another type of journal. One of my mentors called it a black journal. You can also just take a simple piece of paper, just like I'm doing here, and a pen. These are all the tools that you need, a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper. And what you do is you capture the negative thoughts that you have. When you start to do that, you realize that those thoughts are not that you are more than the sum of the thoughts that you have. And this seems counterintuitive, right? Because we're talking here about that those thoughts shape us. Let me just explain that God sees us in through a lens that is perfect, and he sees our potential. What we tend to see are our limitations. And so when we capture these negative thoughts and we write them down on paper, that helps us to realize that, hey, that isn't really who I am, that I am more than these negative thoughts. So I encourage you, just, this is a working exercise. Take out a piece of paper and write down the top 3, 5, 10 thoughts that plague your mind. So you can pause the recording and do that now. I can guarantee that one of those, if you keep going long enough, is going to be, I am not good enough. Some type of I am not enough. That is a thought that I think was implanted into our very first forefathers, Adam and Eve. And I believe that those thoughts originally come from Satan. They come from an adversarial source. And so if we want to conquer the negative, we need to first capture it. We capture that by writing it down on paper. And then step number 2 to that is to write down the opposite of what that negative thought is. So if the thought is, I'm not good enough, you could write down, I am good enough. And then if you want to really counteract the effects of the 2/3 of the negative thoughts that we're experiencing, some estimated 40,000 thoughts a day that are negative, then we not only flip it, but we also add one to it. So we're going to write down 2 positive things. The first one being the exact opposite. So I'm not good enough. I am good enough. And then we add another one. I am good enough and I am strong. I am free. I am capable. I am handsome. Whatever, it doesn't so much matter. That first one is the direct ammunition to be able to fire back at the enemy and say, hey, I caught this and I'm going to counteract it and I'm going to send it right back at you with that same tool that you use, those words. And I'm going to speak it as truth. And I'm going to start it with I am, because we know who the great I am is. And that is the single biggest way that I've found to be able to counteract those negative thoughts. Okay. So capture them, flip them, write them down. And then step 3 is to, once you write them down, destroy the negative and declare the positive. And that looks like when you're out in your tractor, when you're riding your horse, pull out. So negative on one side, positive on the other. Let me just write this down so it's a visual here for those that are watching. Plus sign on one side, negative sign on the other. We tear it down the middle, we crumple up, burn, throw away the negative, and we use the positive. We tuck it in our pocket. And as we go throughout the day, we utilize that to be able to build our energy, our ambition, and the righteous desires of our hearts by declaring those things out loud. And it absolutely works. I know it works because I've done it. Okay, key insight number 2, where true thought management begins. One of the most effective ways to manage our thoughts is not by willpower, but it's by focus. What we focus on tends to grow. What we focus on, we get more of. And for me, and I'm sure for many of you, that focus can be Jesus Christ, and it should be Jesus Christ. Why? Because he is a perfect example. He's somebody who will never let us down, who's somebody who gives us the right way to think, the right way to behave, the right way to feel, the right way to interact with our fellow man. And so how do we do that? Center our thoughts on Christ. Study his word, obviously prayer, study his life, what his teachings were, and then strive to pattern our lives and become men and women that are truly Christ-like. As we do that, our thoughts naturally begin to change. If maybe you don't have a belief in Christ, or maybe you feel distance from him, pick somebody else that you know, like, trust and admire, who exemplifies the ways in which you want to be able to live your life. Utilize those things to help you to strive to become that type of a person. So when you emulate those things, when you emulate somebody who is doing the things that you want to do, that is one of the best ways to create change. So focus is the essence of that key insight number 2. Number 3, what I call the TEAR cycle. TEAR is an acronym, and it goes like this: thoughts, emotions, actions, results. So there's 4 parts to that cycle. Our thoughts and emotions are what are beneath the surface. The actions and the results are above the surface. And so if you look at this from a plant analogy, which most of us understand, if we want to grow better plants, healthier plants, plants with a higher bricks content, nutrient dense plants, it starts at the root level. So we can't just focus on what is above ground. We have to focus on what's below ground. And for us, in this analogy, those are the thoughts and the emotions. So thoughts create emotions. The emotions fuel our actions, and those actions then produce the results. The world tends to change, and it wants to change the things from the top up. But all great philosophers, from prophets in the Bible to Socrates, Plato, most recently Stephen Covey, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, others who understand true and correct principles, they teach something similar to this. They may call it something different, but for me, it's one of the easiest ways to remember it as TEAR: thoughts, emotions, actions, and results. So we're talking a lot in this book about the thoughts that we have, because I believe that that stems and that feeds and breeds and encourages the emotions, and the emotions fuel the results. One of the things that this book doesn't really talk about, and I think is worth addressing for just a minute, is the emotional piece. We've talked about how to manage thoughts. How do we manage emotions? How do we utilize emotions to be able to cause things to grow and not to destroy the things that we want to grow? So again, a really practical tool that I've found is similar to the first one, and it can be combined with the first tool. But this one is actually where you are going to give voice to the negative, where you're going to say to yourself or to others all those nasty things that are just floating around in your heart and in your mind. And you're thinking, why in the world would you do that, right? You just told us that what you focus on grows. And by doing that, are you focusing on that? Are you creating that? You just got to trust me on this one. It is one of the best ways to be able to empty out and create space for new creativity. I call this exercise, it's going to the field. It's just going and having it out with whoever you need to finish that conversation with. Most of the time it's ourselves. Sometimes it could be God, could be a spouse, child, employer, employee. You're not talking to them. You're saying all those things to them or to yourself that you need to say until you've reached the bottom. And how do you know when you reach the bottom? You will feel a little bit empty. You will feel a sense of a void. You'll feel like, okay, I've gotten there. A lot of times there will be emotion that comes up: anger, frustration, tears. But don't be afraid of that. Just push, just keep pushing through. And I absolutely know that this works, because again, I've done it. I'm not asking anybody to do anything that I don't do and get results from. Take your journal with you and be prepared, and just sit in that stillness for a minute and let the inspiration start to come. I've never done this experience. Can't think of a time when I've ever done this that there's not been a flow of inspiration that comes almost immediately. Like some of the things that I've been pondering on, questioning, working out, there hasn't been enough room to receive them because I've been so full of other stuff. You get that other stuff out, and then you have room to receive. That tool, I dare you to go and do it. It's like, it works, it's awesome, and it will get you the results. So let me just recap here these three principles. First, 40% of our thoughts are positive, 60% are negative. If we don't do anything about that, the odds are already stacked against us that we're going to get negative results. So how do we do that? We catch the negative, we reverse it, we go times 2 and add an extra positive to it. And we use that as our declaration, our affirmation throughout the day. Number 2, what we focus on grows. We can focus on Jesus Christ. We can focus and emulate somebody else that we know, like, trust, and admire. We can focus on things that are uplifting. One of my goals for this year is to read a book a month. I listen to way more books than that, but I realized that oftentimes those things that I listen to are just kind of mind candy, and they're kind of mind numbing. And I need to step back and get more discipline in my mind and get more focus. And that's my word for this quarter, is focus. By focusing, that also means cutting out the things that are not serving me. So just like when you focus in with a camera lens, other things in the background tend to blur and fade out. That's just as important as what you focus on, as what you say no to and what you push out of your life. Number 3, the tier cycle: thoughts lead to emotions. Thoughts create emotions. Emotions fuel actions. Actions produce the results. If we're not happy with the results that we have, we go back to the root level and we say, hey, what are the thoughts and the emotions that are fueling this? And we don't just trust it to chance that those emotions are just going to naturally dissolve and be released. Do something to release that. The going to the field technique is my go-to one. A couple others that I utilize are journaling. Also, in a different sense, being able to get it out, write it, and some form of biotapping. You can look that up. We actually have a couple people that we've had on our events in the past that have talked about that. And again, I only bring it up because it works. Experiment with what works for you. Whatever it is, be sure to get that negative out so you create space for the positive. So as you go and you listen to the As a Man Thinketh book, and that's from scripture from the Old Testament. I believe it's in Proverbs: as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. James Allen does a really great job. There I wish I could have known the man and could have listened to him speak. I have no idea if he was an eloquent speaker, but man, does he pack a lot of truth into a short little book. Most of the time I listen to things on 1.5 speed. You can decide the cadence at which I read it, if you want to speed it up or not. But I would encourage you to review it multiple times and even get a hard copy of the book that you can outline and that you can go back and study. Why? Because this principle isn't new to James Allen. It wasn't even new to me 15 years ago. I can think of other things that I've learned from scripture, from other leaders, religious leaders who taught me the same principle that as a man, as I think, so I am, that as I change my thoughts, I will become more of what I think about. But for me, it was the right message at the right time in the right frame of mind. And it really stuck with me. I remember sharing that book with other friends and with family members and just encouraging them to read it. And the thing of it is, for some of them, it was just, hey, thanks. I don't know if they ever read it. For others, it was pretty monumental, like it was for me. And so if you get to the end of it and you're just like, that was that, you might not be at the right place. It might not be the right message for you right now. Come back to it though, because I do know that these principles are true and that they're founded on truth. And so listen to the book, read the book, study the book, and most importantly, do something to alter the way that you think, to create more positive thoughts in your life and to get rid of the negative emotions. I brought these things up because that for me was the piece that I didn't have 15 years ago, that has taken more time to evolve and to be able to learn from mentors, from inspiration, from trial and error, and to be able to tailor it and make it mine. And that's what I hope for you, that you'll never give up on this journey of learning. And so as we begin into this brand new year of 2026, I wanted to share a message that was for me something foundational, fundamental. Last year, we shared a very similar message, The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, at the very beginning podcast of 2025. These books and the messages are very much in alignment. They're just coming from two different angles, from two different eras a little bit. And I would guarantee, I think I can guarantee this, that Earl Nightingale got some of his material from James Allen. I know a lot of religious leaders have quoted him in the talks and discourses that they've given. So now that you listen to this as an intro, I encourage you, go to the next step and listen to the book. And, I thought about how else we could help and serve this community. We started a company in 2022. It's been that long ago, going on 4 years ago, that we had our very first virtual summit. I had a vision for where we were going to be and for what we wanted to do, but I didn't fully know the impact that the message would have. It wasn't on my radar to start a podcast back then. It was just, let's do a summit. God's put it on your heart to be a messenger, and you've been blessed to learn from a lot of mentors, and now you can share these messages with others. And that message has begun to grow. We started the company called Ag Steward. Throughout these last few years, we've been blessed to associate with thousands of people throughout the world. Many of them have come and they've been coached by us at Ag Steward. Most of those have been on a one-on-one basis, where we'll sit down with a husband and wife team over Zoom, occasionally in person, and we'll talk about what their goals are, what their visions are, what their roadblocks are. Most of them are facing some type of financial challenge or opportunity. A lot of times that's what brings them to Ag Steward, is they're struggling with profitability. They don't know how to do enterprise accounting. The second reason that they would come to us is not everybody on their team is on the same page. And then the third, there's a very varied reasons. A lot of them is just to continue their education, their regenerative journey. The message of stewardship resonates with them. They want to be more of a spirit-led leader in their home and in their family. And so we talk about these things that I teach in these podcasts, because all the tactics in the world will not work if you don't have the foundation right. If your thoughts and your emotions are not right, you're just going to continue to be met with frustration and stress and anxiety and worry and fear and doubt and all those things that are creating the results that we don't like in our lives. And so because of that, we are rolling out a brand new tested program. We rolled it out about a year ago, and we've had some people that have gone through as beta testers. And this program is called the Steward Builder. I want to roll this out to the public now. It's an opportunity for you to be able to tap in to the frameworks that we've created to be able to apply these principles in your life, in your business, with your family, in real time and real world scenarios. And it's a way that it's super affordable also. So it's not complicated. It's not hype. It's a practical membership built for farmers and ranchers who want to stop drifting and start building week by week towards profitability, healthy stewardship, and legacy that you will be proud of, that will create a business that will last for generations. So if you're ready to get your numbers clear, build simple rhythms that actually stick, and start making decisions with more peace and confidence, then I invite you. I'd love to have you join us. So in the show notes, there's going to be a link to sign up. I'll say it here in case those that are listening to the podcast want to jot it down. legacy.agsteward.co/join-tsb-standard. Anyway, look in the show notes and you'll be able to find it. And we look forward to serving you. The deliverables, the price, and the information are on there. And this is a way to be able to give back to the community, to be able to serve more people. Just in conclusion here, I want to encourage you as you begin this brand new year, 2026. There's a lot of uncertainties in the world. We don't know, maybe we're starting into World War III. How long will the cattle cycle stay high? How long will commodity prices for farmers stay low? How are we going to make it through another year? I'm sure some of you are questioning this. How do we make it through last year? Some might be on the other side of it. How are we going to avoid paying an exorbitant amount of taxes? What are some of the opportunities that we can take advantage of? So no matter where you're at on that spectrum, whether you're on the side of, man, we made a lot of money, we got to pay taxes, or you're on the side of, I don't even know if we're going to be in business next year. This I do know, that those who join a community, those who gather around them the right people that will support their vision, that align with their values, and will get behind their mission, those who work with others who are ahead of them and help those that are behind them, those are the ones that are truly successful. And that's my goal, and that's my hope for you in this coming year. So thanks for listening to this episode. Go ahead and listen to the As a Man Thinketh, and we'll catch you on another episode. God bless and take care.